Hi, Tim. Welcome. Very nice to meet you. Thanks again for joining me. How are you?
Doing good, Joseph.
Thanks again for being here. Before we dive in, can you tell me a bit about yourself, how you discovered carnivore? How did it all start for you?
Yeah, I mean that's a loaded question, right? I think for everybody, as they get into carnivore, there's probably a handful of reasons why. My journey with carnivore actually started about probably 4 years ago. However, I only recently kind of just dedicated to it and jumped in, into the deep end with both feet. So my initial interest through carnivore actually wasn't anything related to myself. It was related to my wife and her health, postpartum after our first baby. And so she had some sort of health things arise. Thyroid. She actually had a hyperthyroidism after the baby, and actually what we've found out since then, after having our next two kids after that, was about four months postpartum. Her thyroid goes into kind of a hyperthyroid state, and so that turns into we haven't had it officially diagnosed, but it seems like it kind of comes out in sort of a Graves' disease way, where she will lose like hair and have some kind of bald patches happen as well on the head, but then also have a hyperthyroid activity going on. So we originally looked into ways to kind of naturally combat that. So this was about 4 years ago, and carnivore seemed like the most heavy elimination diet that we could do. My wife is really knowledgeable. She's an RN. She's in the metabolic space as well, and so over the last 4, 5, 6 years, we've been down a path in the metabolic health space where we've looked at eliminating different things from our daily lives as well, not just dietary, but a lot of the crazy stuff in our house, whether it's soaps, shampoos, laundry detergent, dishwasher detergent. Like there's a lot of things that go into affecting your overall metabolic health, and they can really stifle your health in a lot of different ways. And so we've been on this progression, I think, for maybe the past 5, 6 years. And but our first dabble, I think, with carnivore was, again, about that 4 year mark. And we did it for 45 days, which was kind of our start. We started with a 3-day fast, went right into carnivore, was very strict. It was just, hey, salt and red meat and water for the first, couple weeks. And then we introduced like some eggs and a couple other different meats. We tried to stay pretty much primarily red meat though. And in that 45-day period, she was able to reverse her hyperthyroidism and a lot of the symptoms that came with that. So the Graves, she had like a small dinner plate size bald spot on the back of her head, and it was, started growing hair back, during that 45 days, and eventually, like now she has a full head of hair. Like it's, pretty crazy to see the results from just the dietary change. And again, there were other things that we changed along the way that probably contributed and helped, but that was our first stint. Fast forward 4 years, and it's just after the birth of our third baby. We've got three little girls, and I'm ready to do the adult thing at age 30, and I'm ready to get life insurance. And so I'm like, hey, I'm going to apply for life insurance policy. Great. Everything's probably going to be fine. I'm a healthy, young 30-year-old, right? But I got a life insurance denial. And the reason on the denial letter, in fact, I have it. I don't think I have it anywhere here reachable, but I was like, I hung it on the fridge after, and I was like, this is motivation right here. Was that I haven't had a checkup in my heart. So to give context for anybody watching this video, I had open heart surgery when I was 17 years old. It was a birth defect that I was born with, and I didn't find out about it until I was 17. I was an avid athlete all growing up. I went and competed in college sports even after my open heart surgery. And I was apparently running the risk of being the guy that just drops dead. Every time I put my heart under stress and under load, every time I was out there doing a workout or doing a practice or a competition, I was the guy that just runs the risk of dropping dead on the court or on the field, right, or on the track. And so I had to get that fixed. And so what they ended up doing, I had open heart surgery. I've got the scar right here. And then the open heart surgery actually wasn't successful in fixing that issue. So I received a stent to fix the ultimate issue. And so if you've got follow-up questions, Joseph, on the open heart surgery piece, I'm more than willing to go into more details on that as well. But, how this fits into the whole story of Carnivore was, hey, I need to get imaging done on my heart. And if I look back at the last decade of my life, right, from age, let's call it 20 to 30, where was my trajectory? And that's really what I was asking myself for a lot of different reasons. Where was I health-wise? Where was I leadership-wise? Where was I business-wise? Where was I headed? And I had some time of self-reflection, and I said, hey, I need to make a pivot. Like, I need my next decade of my life, 30 to 40, to look differently. And so that came out in, hey, I'm gonna go get healthy again. I'm gonna eat a diet that I believe is good for my heart health. I'm gonna get the imaging done on my heart so I can stop living in the dark and start knowing what's going on. I can reapply for health insurance, right? All those things. And so, yeah, for me, it was I'm jumping 2 feet in. I'm getting healthy again, and this is going to help a lot of different things, even outside of the heart, because I wasn't really having too many ongoing issues or anything that I would say that with the heart. But overall, health-wise, I was not in a great place metabolically. I mean, I was an avid athlete my entire life, but I hadn't really worked out in the last decade since I graduated college. I had put on probably at my heaviest in college when I was a collegiate decathlete, running track, and I was slim and fit. I weighed probably right around the 180 to 185 mark. At my heaviest in my adult life, I got up to the about 219 mark, and that really did not feel good. I mean, that was next level for me and everything that I've experienced. I mean, I couldn't even jog a mile type thing, and you come from doing that your whole life to not feeling good. It was definitely a shock. And so, now I don't even know what day it is. I should have double checked and seen how long I've been into Carnivore now. I think it's somewhere probably around 4 months now. For me, when I started Carnivore, I weighed about 200 pounds. Right now I'm down at 175. So I've lost about 25 pounds myself. I feel way lighter, way better. All the side effects that I'm sure we can talk about in the interview a little bit, but that's my journey. That's where I started with. That's where I am right now. Carnivore's been great. I've been feeling great. Yeah.
That is awesome. I mean, it's pretty cool to hear somebody who did decathlon. I actually never met anyone who actually is an athlete who does like 10 I call it like the everything sports.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm just like really curious, how are you able to like physically, mentally keep up with the sports? I know it's very physically what do you call this? It requires a lot of physical what is the word I want to use here?
Maybe demanding. Yeah, physically demanding.
That's the one. Demanding. Yeah, it's very physically demanding and mentally demanding. Yeah. How are you able to? What is the preparation like for if there's an event?
Yeah. Well, I've been out of it since I was 22 is when I graduated college. So I've been out of it for the last 8 years. But I did it for 8 years, until I stopped. And so I was doing the decathlon. I wish I would have known what I know now. I mean, being able to compete as a decathlete requires a lot of energy management. And so there can't be a lot of ups and downs. It's a 2-day competition. You've got 10 track and field events. Day 1, you start and you run the 100, then you long jump, then you throw the shot put, then you high jump, and then you end the day with a 400. So an all-out sprint, 1 lap around the track. Day 2, you come back, and most track athletes are really only used to running 4 events at a track meet, and then they would never run another track meet, the next day. But actually, decathletes come back day 2, the very next day. You wake up out of bed, you're extremely sore already. In the first event, you have to be nice and nimble and flexible, and you got to run the hurdles. And so there's 42-inch hurdles, right, at the college and pro level. Those get high, and so you got to be ready to go like right from the get go. And usually you're starting in the morning on day 2. So you run the hurdles on day 2, you throw discus, then you got to go pole vault, and by then, I mean, you are absolutely exhausted. You're 7 events into the decathlon. It's been 2 days, usually 10 to 12 hour days, usually in the sun baking. And so you're intaking energy, right? You're expending energy. And there's a lot of, hey, I need energy really fast, and then I'm going to go ahead and sit for 30 minutes, and then I need some more. And so maintaining a nice level energy is really, really crucial. If I would have been on Carnivore, I would have been much better off. I mean, in terms of energy management when it comes to the decathlon, but also in terms of weight distribution, one of the best things, one of the strengths of a track athlete in general, but a decathlete specifically, is their weight to power ratio. And so, I mentioned that, in college, I weighed probably right around the 180 to 185 mark. 180 to 185, but could, hang clean 375 and squat 425. And so we would always be fairly lean, but we would have high power outage or, output. And so if I were to be on Carnivore, I probably would have been even leaner. But I probably still would have had probably the same, 5 pounds less or maybe even 10 pounds less, but the same power output. I mean, that makes a huge difference in your ability to go sprint down a runway and long jump, 23, 24 feet, or same thing if you're trying to get up in the air in a high jump or a pole vault, right? And so being lighter, but being just as powerful is a massive advantage. And so, I'm just thinking about like that. When I look back into my prime athletics, like that would have been a huge advantage, I think, for anybody in the sport right now. I mean, looking into what Carnivore could probably do them in the performance side would be huge. So,
yeah. I mean, I'm already getting stressed just listening to the whole preparation, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people like myself consider it like, the most difficult sports in the planet. And what is the diet like? What were your eating habits back then, preparing for this event?
Yeah, and actually I forgot to say the rest of the event. So once you pole vault, you actually then go throw javelin, and then you finish the day 2. You finish the entire decathlon with a 1,500 meter, which is 100 meters less than a mile. So you finish with the mile basically, and it's like you're just leaving it, every ounce of energy you have left on the track, and you're basically collapsing at the end of that. But in my diet, it was terrible. I mean, in college, I didn't care what I ate, For me, I didn't grow up eating vegetables. I had my first salad in college, trying to be healthy and trying to eat better. Even then I had a handful of salads throughout college, was never a big vegetable guy to begin with, but I ate a ton of carbs, sugar, whatever, right? I even during competitions, I would know that hey, I don't want big spikes in, my blood sugar, but I could eat nuts and different things, to kind of try and maintain a nice steady level. But I during training, I remember freshman year in college, I remember we would do these workouts, and it was my first experience. I grew up in Oregon, and I came out to Arizona. So cold weather, rainy all the time, used to being cold. And then I come out to Arizona for college, and I'm training in the 110 degree heat. I'm like, what is this, right? And so I remember training, we would run hills on Fridays. And so it's these long hills and these nice neighborhoods, kind of near the college campus there. And we would be in Phoenix area. We'd be running this big gradient hill upward, and we'd do repeat hill stuff. And it would absolutely wreck me. And for whatever reason, this is how bad I was in terms of nutrition. I didn't let it click in my mind that I should not eat the biggest Qdoba burrito that you can imagine right before I go and run hills. I mean, I don't know why that never seemed to click in my head, but my freshman year, I mean, I kid you not, I would eat a massive lunch, and then we'd go run hills around 2 p.m. right in the heat of the day. It would be over 100 degrees, and I'd be on a full stomach, and I would puke every single Friday. And until like years later, looking back on it, I was like, you dummy, what are you doing? So, in terms of diet, like I have not even given much thought to my diet. You know, my wife and I, my wife was on the track team as well. We actually got married in college, so we just celebrated our 10th anniversary. And she's much more, again, she's much more metabolically minded than I am in terms of like health and nutrition and everything. I was the guy that just never really cared and was like, I can always outperform or outwork out my diet. And that's how you think. And then you grow up a little bit and you turn 30 and you're like, nope, that's actually not true. Actually, everybody talks about in real life is true. You got to fix diet if you want to be healthy. So,
Yeah. Wow. Congrats on your anniversary, 10 years. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Tim, so you and your wife, are already familiar with carnivore from 4 years ago, and you guys did it for 45 days, right? So how long did you guys do your research before attempting those, the carnivore back then? And who were like the first people that you guys watch or maybe see online, or did you heard it from someone else? Yeah.
yeah. Back in those days, I mean, 4 or 5 years ago, it's probably when it was starting to really get popular, social media, right after COVID era. I mean, that's where a lot of social media people kind of sprung up. But, our first introductions to carnivore, we did a lot of YouTube research and watching videos. There was Dr. Ken Berry. He was on there. He's big in that space. Who else was it? Michaela Peterson, I think, was doing lion diet stuff at that time. And so we would get some information from her. Who's the other one over there in Australia? Dr. Anthony Chafee. He was a big one for me because he was a little bit more performance, minded, I guess, on the how the carnivore diet can impact certain things. So we had really done a lot of our research just honestly on YouTube channels, and the thing that we took was like the information while you watch YouTube channels about carnivore diet and like the impacts of it and what's good is all super helpful and informative. But really what tipped the scales for us to say, hey, it's time to try this. You have a health issue going on. Let's dive in. Let's try and fix it with this. Was reading all of the comments. If you go on to pretty much any carnivore YouTube channel and you watch the video, but scroll down and read the comments. I mean, it is absolutely insane. People sharing their testimonies, their stories of what's happening. Like, that's what really seals the deal. And, because there's not a whole lot of actual real research because it's fairly new, and we haven't done a ton of research on the carnivore stuff. And that's usually why people are scared or put the brakes on before trying it. But you go and listen to the anecdotal evidence of everybody's experience doing this. I mean, it's pretty hard not to believe that you're going to get some results from it and that it can at least be a really good first step to trying to solve a lot of your health problems.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, those are actually the first people you mentioned. The first people I've listened to also. Yeah, Dr. Chafee, because of the sports related. Yeah. So, with the open heart surgery, what was that experience like for you? Like, after they performed it, like the before and after, like, did you feel a lot better? Or like, how was the recovery after that surgery? Did it make a difference for you? Were you able to go back to being physically active, or did it took a while?
Yeah. I had the benefit of being young. So youth was definitely on my side in terms of an open heart surgery recovery. Definitely harder, right? The later you are in life, recovery from surgeries and anything like that just takes longer. So yeah, I had the operation done in the spring when I was 17 years old. My goal when I had open heart surgery was to be back 4 months later for my senior year of football. And so that was my goal. And I remember vividly. I mean, I remember the open heart surgery, sitting in the hospital, can hardly move, having to have assistance to sit up. They saw through your breastbone and then they wire it back together. But it takes 8 to 12 weeks, right? I think, if I'm not mistaken, for a bone to fuse back together. And you can't, you use that muscle, you use all these muscles that are within your core and your chest to move anything. And I remember that being very painful. Once I got through the first maybe 4 to 6 weeks of kind of post-recovery, you can't really do anything during that time anyway. I remember wearing a heart rate monitor, and my resting heart rate, I don't know what it was before I got open heart surgery, but again, when I tell you I played year-round sports my entire life, at that point I was, a top-tier decathlete in the U.S. for high schoolers. There was no real signs of me having any heart troubles at that point. We actually caught the issue. I went to the hospital for a concussion that I received when I was pole vaulting. And the nurse was like, hey, are you planning on doing college sports? You should probably just get your heart screened, just as a precaution. And so I got an EKG. I don't even think they found anything, but they were like, hey, why don't you come in and do some other testing? And so God definitely had a play in, getting me to a test where they could actually see stuff. And that's where they did an echocardiogram, where they did the echo test where they could actually see ultrasound imaging. And then from there, they actually went and did another test where they saw I was only getting, less than 20% blood flow through my main coronary artery. And so they were saying like, hey, every time you go and, rev up the engine, right, and you put max heart rate effort out, your heart is not getting enough blood into the heart to pump. And so you're running the risk of literally just passing out, heart stopping. And so, I got that fixed. But after the open heart surgery, the recovery process was probably a good 3 to 4 months until I was already doing activity again. I remember, again, wearing the heart rate monitor. My resting heart rate, I'm just going to guess, it was probably in the 60s. Before the surgery, because I was very active, maybe even lower. And then after the open heart surgery, my resting heart rate was like 110, because they stopped the heart, and your heart's a muscle. And when it stopped, think about this, like your muscle, it's beating all the time, every second, all the time, your heart's going for your entire life. And so when they stop that and it doesn't do anything for, 6 to 8 hours while they're operating on you. You have a machine pumping the blood through your body, but the actual heart itself is stopped. It's very out of shape. That's the biggest rest we've given it by far its entire life. And so now it's out of shape. So you're not very great in terms of your cardiac shape. And so I remember getting on this exercise bike, having a resting heart rate of about 110, and the doctors told me you can't go over 120. And so they had pre-programmed the watch to beep at me if I go above 120. And typically, that's just me walking down the hallway at high school. I was getting to 120. And so I remember hopping on an exercise bike, though, because I was just so committed to saying, hey, I'm going to push the limits. They're going to give me limits on my progression and recovery and how fast I should be doing things. But I'm going to push it right to the max all the time so that I can, get back faster. And I got on this little exercise bike. I kid you not, I probably pedaled for about 5 seconds. And my watch starts beeping at me. It's like, stop. And so I stop. I focus on my breathing. I slow my heart rate back down. And then I pedal for 5 more seconds. And I think that I look back at that time in my life, as a young 17-year-old, I tell people now I am so blessed to have gotten open heart surgery. The lessons that I've learned from adversity are much more valuable than, maybe the pain that came from the adversity. And when I think of anything in life, jumping on that exercise bike, you focus on what you can control. I can control that I can jump on this bike and I can pedal for 5 seconds. After that, I can't control, the fact that my watch starts beeping at me. But now I'm going to go ahead and focus again on what I can control. I'm going to focus on my breathing. I'm going to slow my heart rate. And then I'm going to go again. right? And this is what, I mean, this lesson probably applies to every situation in my life since then. And it probably applies to everybody else's life, right? You focus on what you can control and you get after it, and results come from that. So 4 months, fast forward, I was in my final stage of getting cleared for high school football. So I was right on track. I was getting ready to do it. And I go and get my final check to get cleared. And the doctor comes back in and says, hey, like, we can't clear you. The open heart surgery didn't work, right? All that effort, all the times on the bike, all the pain, all the, rehab of getting through that open heart surgery didn't matter. And that's the biggest shock factor, like going through something like that, committing yourself to a goal that you have in front of you, for it to kind of be ripped and stripped away. That tests where you are mentally, how you rebound, how you keep going, how do we respond to that, right? And so he gave me two options. He said, we can either do another open heart surgery and try and fix this issue. We'll do an official bypass and take, an artery from my leg or ankle or something like that and put it in your heart, and that should fix the issue. Or, we can opt for a stent. The stent would be far less invasive. You're not going to have to go through the recovery process again, but we don't know the long-term effects. We've never put a stent in somebody your age. We usually put them in somebody, who's 60 years old. It would help widen that coronary artery that I need widened. But it's supposed to last the rest of your life, but we don't know, right? Being young, I'm like, look, I got big dreams. I'm trying to go play college sports. I don't have another 4 months to go ahead and get set back again, especially when I was trying to get a scholarship for college. So I said, hey, give me the stent. We're going to go non-invasive. That meant I couldn't play football. You can't play contact sports. They don't want that stent getting unlodged. You're going to be on blood thinners after you get a stent as well for about a year. So I didn't end up playing my senior year of football, but I went on and continued in track and field, and that's what I continued to do in college as well. And so that's how the open heart surgery, the recovery went, getting the shock news of, things not really working out the way you wished or hoped they would. But looking back, I mean, the fact that it even was caught in the first place, definitely a God thing. The fact that I was able to get it fixed and able to come back from that. There's more to the story too that we can dive into if you want. But like, I remember doing a stress test on the treadmill before I had the surgery, and I lasted, I don't remember what it was, maybe 12 minutes or 15 minutes or something. So it's like treadmill, you start walking, it inclines slowly, it gets faster and faster. This was when I was in shape. Like I was in peak, like high school shape at that time. My training was going well. This was before the open heart surgery. After the open heart surgery, after the stent was placed, I got this test done again. And my goal was I was going to last longer, right? I had more blood flow. I should last longer. And I remember jumping on that treadmill and like my mind was set. I was going to last and outlast what I had done the first time in the best shape. And so I was proving it to myself. I was just proving it to the doctors. I was like, I'm going to have no doubt left on the table that I can go and start competing and get back to sports ASAP. And I think I ended up lasting 22 minutes, and I had the treadmill maxed out for like, I don't know, 7 minutes or something. I think it maxes out maybe after 15 minutes. So it maxes out on speed and incline. And I was just like dead set on that goal. But yeah, that's a little into the recovery process and what that looked like for me.
Wow. It's just amazing. Yeah. It all makes sense now, like how you ended up with the decathlete journey. So Tim, were you ever skeptical of carnivore at all? Like, maybe in the early days or maybe now, like, did you think it might affect your heart, your open heart surgery? It's been a while. It's been more than 10 years, right? And did you think you might get a heart disease or anything? It took me a while to wrap my head around it.
Yeah, I think that's a question for a lot of people. my first doubt is before I even start anything, right? You're going through what you've been taught, and you're like, everything you've been told in life is like red meat's bad. It causes heart disease. High cholesterol is the problem. All of these things are connected. And so naturally, me having the cardiac background and having gone through open heart surgery, definitely not wanting to do that again, there's even more of like this risk level in my mind of, well, I just want to make sure whatever I'm doing is going to be heart healthy. And so for me, when I said, I'm going to get into carnivore again, I'm going to commit myself to it, and I'm going to get healthy doing this, I was looking for not just the anecdotal, because I was like, I want some more research. I want somebody with some authority to be able to tell me yes or no. Like, this is green lit. Like, yes, you can do this. I look at hearts all the time. A cardiologist who can kind of give me the green light on this plan. And so during that time, this was about 4 or 5 months ago, I researched cardiologist, anybody in the cardiac field who had some sort of alignment with carnivore and why. Like, I wanted to know why they fell on that side of the line. And that's what led me to Dr. Philip Ovadia. I'm a patient of his, and actually I now work for them because I believe so much in the brand and what they're doing for people after becoming a patient of theirs. And so Dr. Ovadia has done over 3,000 open heart surgeries. He's seen literally everything under the sun. And I was like, I want to do carnivore. Is this a good thing, bad thing? I need to get, what imaging do I need to get? What should my labs be? Because I need to submit stuff back for life insurance as well. And so, like I said, I hadn't gone back to the doctor since they gave me the original clearance to play sports. I was like, I'm not getting any more bad news from a doctor, so I'm never going back. And so, I hadn't had anything done. I hadn't had any labs done. I hadn't had any imaging done on my heart, despite maybe what I was supposed to have done. And so, I got a CT angiogram, which just shows any plaque, calcified plaque, anything in my heart. There was 0 that came back in my scan. I got my labs drawn, and I got them drawn actually before starting carnivore. So now I have a baseline. I'm actually due to get them drawn again to see the progress, right? What are my testosterone levels? Where are those trending? What does my cholesterol look like? What does the different sizing of cholesterol look like? Because, what we know now, I think in studies and against sort of the mainstream narrative of what we've been taught over the last 50 to 70 years when it comes to heart disease and heart health, total cholesterol isn't very important. It's the quality of cholesterol, not the quantity of cholesterol, that matters when it comes to heart disease risk and heart health. And so knowing these things, learning a ton from the practice, that's been super beneficial for me to go ahead and make a confident decision about moving forward, right? I knew the lifestyle changes that I wanted to make. I had done a lot of research already on carnivore diet, but there was still the missing piece of having somebody who has the authority to say, look, here's what I've seen. I've done thousands of these surgeries. We have patients who have exact same symptoms. Here's what results we're getting with a carnivore diet. And that's what really won me over, and made me feel confident about the next steps of actually taking the plunge, making the changes, and then ultimately sticking with it, instead of getting worried, right, and being like, oh no, what am I doing to myself, or being scared by a doctor reacting to some labs. It's like, no, I know we're on the right track. Here's why this matters. Here's why this doesn't matter, and so on.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I know you mentioned earlier about the junk foods early in your 20s, like eating salads here and there, other carbohydrates, food, the sugar. Did you have any assumption what was causing your health issue? I know you also mentioned about like a birth defect in the beginning, like, could it be like stress, or maybe a food trigger, or maybe, work-related stress, or maybe college-related stress, or anything like that, genetics. Yeah. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, stress. I mean, nothing leading into the birth defect when I was 17. But after that, certainly. I mean, through my 20s, when I look back at the last decade, I've had times, I've been a business owner the last, 10 years of my life. And anybody who's a business owner knows that there's stresses. There's highs and lows that come with it. You're managing a lot of different hats, and like, oh my goodness, you could be on the top of a mountain one week and then you're literally in your lowest low the next week. And so through my 20s, like, stress was always a thing. And when I look back at that, it's like, what can I do to prevent risk? For myself personally, I think of myself as higher risk because I don't get as much blood flow as normal. Even with the stent in there right now, I think I'm still probably around maybe 70 to 80% of what maybe normal blood flow would be like in your main coronary artery. So, I know that I'm more susceptible to those things. And if I don't eat a healthy diet now, like, looking back, it's like, man, I should have fixed this earlier, because if I'm not eating a healthy diet, and I'm not able to manage my stress levels, and I'm not managing the inflammation in my body, and if I'm eating really bad, even though I might not be, considered, morbidly obese, but if I'm eating terrible, I might have insulin resistance. Insulin resistance and inflammation in the body are definitely what put me at risk for, narrowing, hardening of the arteries, and I'm already more susceptible because I have more limited blood flow than the average person. So knowing that stuff now, I mean, I look back and I'm like, I should have known this earlier, or I should have been making changes in my diet. In terms of managing stress, I'm learning a lot about that in terms of, how I treat my day to day. Looking back at my 20s, I didn't do well at taking care of myself physically. And if you can get in workout routines, if you can take care of yourself physically, if you can get outside and be active, get out in the sunshine, right? Sometimes it's hard in Arizona where I'm at, where it's 118 degrees, a couple weeks ago. But get outside in the sunlight in the morning, invest time into your spiritual growth. For me, that's a big thing in terms of being able to manage stress involving the highs and lows of life. And, I've got 3 young kids at home. It's a growing family. There's all sorts of reasons to be stressed, but there's also a lot of ways to deal with them. And if you're diligent about being consistent, that's the key, right? You will have some highs and lows, but if you can, again, kind of like I did in the decathlon as an athlete, where I'm just trying to manage those highs and lows so I can stay right here instead of right there, right? The same thing goes for your stress and managing that, having some margin in life, not being so cramped with your schedule that you can't think straight, and enjoying and reminding yourself of what's important. I got 3 young little kids at home. They're important to me. Spending time with them is important to me. What they're getting taught and how I'm pouring into them every day. Put priorities where they should be, and, don't focus and don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah, that's really good. What motivates you now? Like, is it like sharing your story? Is it a feeling of helping people? Maybe a sense of duty, spreading awareness, or are you even frustrated with the current medical guidelines for nutrition or anything like that?
That's an interesting, yeah. I mean, you touched on a couple things. I think that I'm motivated more recently than ever. I've always thought of myself as, and this kind of goes back to the sports background. I've always been like a leader, or, a captain on the team, or, kind of a vocal motivator to teammates. And I usually get energy from helping others become the best versions of themselves. And so, this goes back to my time as an athlete. I would get motivated just by helping teammates, challenging them to become the best versions of themselves, athletically, as humans, as friends, as teammates, like whatever it might be. How do you level up in a lot of different areas in life? And then you get into real life and you get removed from maybe some of the structure, and we are tainted by the world around us, and we get this we get this pressure to just only look inward. You know, and I look back at my 20s, and that's probably the thing that I look back and I'm least proud of, is only looking at myself, right? Oh, how am I getting better, right? It wasn't that I lacked motivation, but I was literally just looking inward. And I wasn't looking outward at the people that I was, you know, my closest friendships, the relationships that I had, my family. How am I pouring out into other people and making them the best versions of themselves? And so when I look back, it's that's the biggest thing I want to change here for the rest of my life. But most certainly the next decade, is my purpose here on earth is to help others reach their full potential. And that might be dietary wise. You know, this is something that I'm big on now as I'm changing this in my own life. I'm learning so much about the medical field and how it's fallen short in actually helping people solve their problems. You know, is it physically? Is it getting people outside and getting them active? Is it motivating them to become the best versions of themselves, the best leaders in their households, in their homes, as dads, as fathers, as husbands, as friends, as community members, as neighbors, right? It's pretty much everywhere in my life. How do I boil that down into one single motivation for myself? I pour out into other people and I motivate them to become the best versions of themselves. And that can look and take shape in different forms for a lot of different areas in my life. But to be honest, that is what motivates me. That's what drives me. That's why I believe I'm here on earth. And my cup is full when I'm pouring into other people. So, yeah, to answer your question, yes. And then as I learn more about the medical system and how it's fallen short, I mean, you know, working for Ovadia Heart Health now, I hear patient after patient after patient come in and chat and ask questions. And as I listen to these conversations happen, I hear about, you know, the advice that they're being given from the medical field, the mainstream medical advice of, hey, your cholesterol's high, throw them on a statin, right? And it's like, if you don't go on a statin, you're going to die. And learning the research and learning and seeing what is happening in the for patients in the practice, not doing that, actually removing medications, fixing the root problem and the root causes of their health, and then feeling better overall. And one, not only fixing the cardiac issues that they came to the practice with, but fixing a laundry list of other metabolic health issues that have come in. I mean, you had mentioned, you know, before we jumped on the call, you had gotten in and wanted to fix your tennis elbow. You know, fixing inflammation across the board, that helps a lot of different things for people. You know, it helps them lose weight. It helps them feel better. It helps them have energy. It helps their aches and pains when they go and work out. They're less sore. And then that spurs the momentum for them to fix a ton of other issues that are going on that they might not have even thought of that could be fixed. You know, it could have been something that they've been dealing with for the past decade, you know, and now all of a sudden inflammation's gone from their body because they made a dietary lifestyle change. And now they're like healed. And they're like, oh my goodness, I came to you for this issue and you fixed 10 other things. And so you don't see that in the medical field. You don't see that with advice. You know, doctors typically just want to stick people on drugs and fix the symptom instead of treating the actual root cause. And I knew that. I sort of had that idea in the back of my head, but I never really, you know, saw it. I never really heard the conversations. I never knew how many people were actually getting bad advice and then dealing with the repercussions of that. And, you know, something I just learned, a fact was statins is over like $1 trillion industry. It's the most successful drug ever sold worldwide in terms of, you know, prescription medication. And I think it's estimated worldwide that there's over 1 billion people with a B, billion people prescribed statins. I mean, that is, I think there's only 8.5 billion people in the world, right? So like we're talking about a massive percentage of people prescribe statins. Why? And why are we continuing to see heart disease numbers rise, right? Like why is it the number one killer in the US still? If statins are so effective, if the common advice that we get from doctors is so effective, why is it still the number one killer in the US? More than number 2 and 3 combined. That's just wild to me. So I think people are waking up though, like myself. I mean, like other people I see waking up to the narrative around, hey, I think probably taking prescriptions and drugs isn't always the fix. It might just mask the problem, and it can certainly cause a lot of other problems as well along the way. So why don't I try and find some ways to really fix that root issue? And I think it all just boils down to metabolic health and how we can take inflammation and fight against, your insulin resistance. So.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, a lot more people are waking up now, like on a daily basis, and I feel like they've been giving out statins like candy lately, And I agree with what you said about, we don't really see this in the carnivore community where we're compared to the medical industry, like where they just like fix the symptom instead of like getting into the root cause, the actual root cause. Yeah. Tim, so looking back at the beginning of your carnivore journey, were there any mistakes you made? Like, what are they, and like, how did you learn from them? I know you came back from, from 4 years ago, and now you're about 4 months carnivore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, things I learned from the beginning was, I think, like, one thing everybody has to learn, and you kind of, when you're doing research, you hear about it and you try and learn, but like the fat to protein ratio that you're getting, right? I think it's so I think it was part of our problem the very first time we tried it during that 45 days. Although we felt good for most of it, we probably weren't getting enough fat when I look back. Compared to this time around as myself on carnivore now, I get a lot more fat in the diet. I stick to red meat more. Having chicken, fine, but like it really should be limited, right? You're not eating that 3 days in a row. You're just not going to get the fat that you need from that, even if it's chicken thighs. And so, ruminant red meat is great. And meat is medicine. And the fattier cuts, the better. Don't trim off a bunch of the fat. Like, eat it. If you can, just try and eat it. Get your fat through butter. Cook things with butter. I actually get a lot of my fat now. I make lattes here at home, and I get a lot of my fat from heavy whipping cream. And so I buy organic heavy whipping cream. It's very low carb. It's like less than 5 grams of carb, virtually nothing for like an entire cup. But it is a ton of calories, and it is a ton of fat. And so I do that, and then I'll eat meat, in the evening. So I think for most people, it's understanding that fat to protein ratio. You need a lot more fat than you probably think that you're getting than you're getting. The other thing I'll say is I just learned this last week. I mean, I had a good 3-day stretch where I felt really bad, like low energy, and I was like, what's going on? I wasn't sure because I had a really busy work week, and I was traveling, and I was, pulling late nights, and, our kids are young, so it's like you don't get a great night's sleep anyway all the time. And I was kind of just chalking it up to that, but I was, mentally foggy. I was extremely tired, couldn't wake up, even after like multiple coffees type thing. And I was like, there's something wrong. And so, my wife being an RN, she brought me home an IV, and hooked that up. I probably was low on electrolytes. I was experiencing some like very small cramping, muscle cramping. So I was probably a little low on my, what am I blanking on right now?
Is it electrolytes or something else?
Yeah, a specific, specific vitamin there. Magnesium, I think. If you're low on magnesium, you can be, kind of result in some muscle cramping. I had like some light headache, and I think that was maybe part of it. It could have been a mixture, right, of maybe some dehydration, not drinking enough water, but I think it was really the electrolyte stuff. So to that point, I wasn't really adding, any salt into my water. I need to now, just to make sure I'm getting enough, because if I'm not getting enough through the food that I'm eating, if I haven't salted something enough, maybe it was while I was traveling, I wasn't getting enough salt on the food that I was actually getting. And so maybe that was it. But that's, you learn through the process. And I think for most people, once you get through the first 3 weeks, right, and you're fat adapted, you have energy again. The first 3 weeks are rough. You're going to be dealing with sugar cravings. You're going to be dealing with carbohydrate. I mean, you're an addict, right? We're all addicts at this point. Let's be honest about it. But once you get through that, the first 3 weeks, and then also your body becomes adapted to burning fat instead of carbohydrates for fuel, your energy level is way higher and sustained way higher. And so, getting through the first 3 weeks is a big learning process. But then, as you're going, I mean, we've got to be able to listen to our bodies, just like I just did this last week. It was saying like, hey, what's wrong? I got to diagnose what's wrong. Like something's feeling off. It's not, I didn't think it was like me eating, too much meat or something. I chalked it up to, hey, maybe I'm just missing like a mineral. Maybe I'm just missing I'm low on electrolytes. Maybe I'm dehydrated. Could be something along those lines. And I got the IV and the next day I was myself again. I was completely better. And I had a low grade headache, for 2 days, and was just feeling out of it. So, the IV definitely helped. There was a bunch of stuff packed in that IV as well. I forget what she had packed in it, but that was definitely helpful. So you just learn. You go with, you're going to have times where it's up and down, and you got to adapt on the road, right? And you got to find ways to navigate life. That is just normal. That's normal life, and you find ways to get it done.
Yeah, I like that protein to fat ratio you mentioned. I think that's very important. It's a common mistake from a lot of carnivores also. So what does a typical eating of day or week of eating look like for you now? Do you pretty much keep it consistent, or do you mix things up from time to time?
Yeah, so I actually I typically buy like a big chuck. Like the last one that I bought from Costco was like 25 pounds. And then I cut it up into like 1.5 to 2 pound chunks, like bricks almost. I've got these big 1.5 to 2 inch thick bricks sitting inside my fridge right now, being air chilled, right? You salt all the sides. I've got 4 of them there on a raised rack. It's sitting in my fridge, and then every night I can just take one off, throw it on my Blackstone, cook it up, and then eat it. So yeah, my day typically is, I'll drink coffee in the morning, right? I have, a latte, but with the heavy cream. And then I usually won't eat anything until the afternoon, evening, probably around 5, 6, sometimes even later. I'm never really like starving. Once you get past the initial cravings in the first 3 weeks and your body's fat adapted, you lose a lot of the appetite. So that's typically what my day looks like. If we're having breakfast, I'll cook up, on a Saturday with the family. Like if we want to have, and I want to be a part of that, I'll cook up some eggs and bacon, no problem. But I think most days, I just drink coffee in the morning, and then I have either some sort of red meat, or sometimes I'll have chicken or something, depending on what I'm cooking for the family, that night. And what their meat dish is, then I'll just eat whatever, meat they're having too. So, but I would say probably 80% of the time it's either some sort of steak, some different cut of red meat.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Are your kids also doing carnivore, or maybe something close animal based or keto? I know your wife is probably doing the same thing as you, right?
She's not yet. Going to be starting soon. So our kids are not. My oldest, she is 4 years old. She eats probably 80% carnivore. She's like loves just ground beef. Like you give her a bowl of ground beef, she loves it. She eats cottage cheese. She loves, but she also eats snacks, and we still make peanut butter and jellies for their lunch, and so. She's not quite there. It's something we're thinking through. She's a pretty picky eater. Luckily, most of the things she likes is pretty carnivore based. And so for us, it's a matter of making that switch. The rest of our kids, our youngest is still breastfed. So, about as carnivore as you can get, I guess. As a newborn baby, she's 5 months old now, or close to between 4 and 5 months. And then, our middle child, she's 2, and she eats basically everything or anything we kind of give her. So, they're generally pretty healthy. We try, and in terms of carbohydrates for the kids, they like rice. And so, we'll cook up like a veggie and some rice and some meat or something would be for their dinner type thing. We try and limit the snacks as much as possible. But they still eat snacks like any kid does. They're just, on the healthier side of snacks, I guess, more natural side of snacks, little fruit bars with like all organic fruit or organic ingredients and stuff like that. So they're not eating terrible, but they're definitely not carnivore just yet.
That's pretty awesome. I mean, I think it's the same situation with my kids. About 80% carnivore, and then the youngest one is 6 years old, and it's always the hardest one. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Tim, so is there anything hard about being carnivore for you? Examples of these for me, right, would be social gatherings, the travel, the cravings in the beginning. It took me like over a year to kick my cravings out of my system. I know. Was it easy for you to jump in back to a carnivore? Did you face skepticism with family and friends? Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Luckily, I don't deal with the skepticism from family and friends. I think we've had results with carnivore in the past, so like it's not anything different. I don't, people who are close to us know that I eat carnivore. We live right next door to our best friends, and my buddy loves to bake, right? And they know that I just eat meat, and so if they want some meat, they can come over and I'll grill something up for them, or whatnot. But I think in recent weeks and in months, traveling can be difficult. Eating on the road can sometimes be difficult, but I've eaten quite a bit recently at like different restaurants out on the road, and you can always order a hamburger with an egg on top of it with some bacon, and not get the bun and not eat the side. And you're like, you can make it happen. And that's what I did a lot of the meals, or you order a steak or whatever it's going to be, right? But I think you're more adaptable. I think for most people, they think, well, I'm going to have limited options on the road. But hey, look, you're actually more adaptable because you don't have as much of an appetite. Like, you don't need to eat 3 meals a day. It's not like you need to go make 3 decisions a day of what you're going to eat when you eat out. It's like, you just eat out once a day, and you're going to just have to make that one decision of what you're going to order and what you're going to get from the restaurant that aligns with what you're trying to do. So, in that way, I find myself being more flexible, because it's like I don't need to think about what I'm going to eat for breakfast, and then again what I'm going to eat in 4 hours from now for lunch, and then again what I'm going to eat for. It's actually a lot more freeing to be like, well, okay, I just got to figure out one meal today and figure it out. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I think that's the beauty of carnivore. It simplifies everything. And like you said, you only eat once or twice per day. And that's the beauty of it, the freedom. Yeah. So, Tim, if you had to describe the impact of carnivore in your life, what one word would you describe it, and tell me why?
Catapult. I think, it's one decision that you can make for your life that impacts just about every other area of your life. I wasn't expecting that necessarily. I was going to change my nutrition and change my lifestyle and base it around carnivore to fix my, health, physical health. But you go carnivore and you quickly realize, oh, I'm feeling a lot better mentally. And, oh, I'm feeling a lot better socially. And, oh, this is impacting, every other area of my life, because all these things feed into my physical health. And, carnivore or physical health, I think I didn't necessarily believe this until more recently, but it literally is the linchpin. It's the domino, right? If you can get your physical health in check, the mental health comes, the social health comes, your business, like motivation comes, a lot of different ways and things fall into place from there. So I would say, yeah, I would describe it as, the catapult or the domino, right? It's the thing that if you can accomplish this, I mean, you're going to be really surprised at all the other things in your life that trend better because of it.
Yeah, that's a great word. Actually, the first time somebody described it that way. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So, Tim, knowing what you know now about carnivore and the nutrition, if you can give an advice to someone who may have a chronic issue going on right now, and they see, you're having so much success, looking healthy, but they're very skeptical about this whole thing. It's not the same thing as what their doctor is are telling them. What would you tell them? Would you tell them to try it or just give it a 30-day or so? Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I like a 90-day trial. For myself, when I started this journey, I'm well over, I think 4 months. I'm probably closer to like the 120-day, but I was giving myself a 90-day runway. And I said, hey, what results can I get in 90 days? I'm going to commit to that. I'm going to commit to getting more active. I'm going to commit to getting more fit during that time. And the results that you get in 90 days, not only just from myself, but every other person I've talked to who has done carnivore for at least 90 days, it's an easy decision to keep going. You're like, wow, why would I not? You get to 90 days and you're like, that didn't work. I haven't personally talked to anybody who has said that. It's always, oh, I did end up falling off the bandwagon, but I know how good I felt. I need to get back. I need to get back on the carnivore train, right? So I always recommend jump 2 feet in, 90 days, give it everything you got. You're going to be here's the way I look at life, essentially. If you're going to be sacrificing, you're going to be making a sacrifice, you're going to be making any sort of lifestyle change, and you're going to be giving up things that you like or you do on a daily basis already, just dive all in. Because if you're already removing things that you like and you're making a conscious choice to give these things up and to, suffer a little bit, in other words, you might as well just suffer all the way and get all the results. Like, you're already living a lesser life in your eyes from what you might be seeing it as. You might as well squeeze all the potential results out of that effort as possible. Give it a good try, give it a good go, and see what happens. And honestly, if you do that, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. You're not going to have. Yeah, I think for anybody, they're going to be just happy with those.
Yeah, totally. Carnivore for me, it's like a kit bundle. I like you said, kind of the same thing that you said. It came, with different things, like a bundle. And it came with so many other benefits that I never expected. Having great energy throughout the day, no crashes later in the afternoon. It's just like different things. And the best thing for me has been the sleeping factor. What about for you? Out of all the benefits from carnivore, what is the best thing you've experienced?
Well, I think as a young dad, it's like having energy in the afternoon and well into the evening. I mean, you probably know this, having kids, and you're a little bit further along the stage as I am, but I've got young kids, and that nighttime, bedtime routine, it's like all hands on deck. Everyone's got to be going. We need all attention and energy focused in the right way. And if I'm dragging super heavy, just last week when I was feeling really out of it, it was a wrench, to my family. It was a wrench thrown in the wheel. And when you're young and you need to have energy and you're in this life stage that I'm in currently, that's the biggest benefit, I think. Having long, long days of sustained energy where I'm not dropping off. I'm not going to feel like I'm going to pass out in the middle of my afternoon because I just ate this carb heavy lunch. It's like, hey, I can keep plugging away at my job, at business, and then I still have room left over. I still have margin left over for my family at the end of the day, coming and helping with those things. And I have energy to be there, be present for that. So that's the biggest thing. If I had to give it a close second, I would say, my mental clarity. Besides the last week when I felt like I was low on electrolytes, my mental clarity is much higher. Way less brain fog. It's like I actually am able to bounce back and forth between thoughts without just like feeling like I'm forgetting what's going on, in front of me. So you remove all the inflammation in your body and you start thinking a lot more clear. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, experienced the same thing. I think, close second, I would give it. I would give it to that also. Yeah. Tim, so my last question to you is your future outlook. How do you see carnivore in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you see carnivore being in the good light or the bad? The bad meaning, we'll probably see more heavier pushback from the media or maybe the medical community, maybe more censorship. On the good side, we'll probably hear more people talk about it, more people inquiring because we're seeing more diseases being cured, improving, remission. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think you're going to see a lot more pushback because, it hits a nerve. And like I said, the statin industry is $1 trillion industry. There's a lot of money rooting against it. There's a lot of money that would be upset if people were to find out the truth and really start, fixing the root causes of their health problems. The medical system is set up for that way. It's set up to profit based on, our ongoing illnesses and being able to have a patient for life and for us to be on medications for the next 50 years. That's a great business model. And so I by no means think that, carnivore is going to miraculously come through and the medical system is just going to accept it because there's no way they're going to accept it. So the louder the noise gets on the other side, I think that's probably a good thing. It means, hey, they're feeling some sort of pain. I think there's going to continue to be, so many voices and stories. I mean, there already is. You go and look on any carnivore YouTube video that you can find, you're going to see comments of people's stories and all of the things that they've fixed in their life because they went carnivore 2, 3, 4, 5, sometimes 10, 15 years ago. It's like crazy to hear people's stories. So, I from what I know now, where I am right now, it's like I'm just glad to be on the fighting side of making people aware of what carnivore can do for them. I don't know that it's the end all be all, right? Like you can be a low carb and whole food probably. Like there's a spectrum there. But I think, eliminating what we know to be the current American diet, the SAD diet, the standard American diet, and you eliminate the processed crap, you eliminate the sugar, and all the stuff that comes with a high carbohydrate diet, you quite literally reverse the food pyramid, right? Which we had done, I guess, this year. And you start to treat your health the right way and fix the root problems. I'm excited to be a part of that fight. I'm excited to be a part of, spreading awareness. And there's so many people out there that don't know. Like you think like this information is everywhere, but there's so many people that don't know. And the voice and the noise coming from the other side is so loud still that people think that that's the only way. The only way is to get on the drugs. The only way is to take the statin. The only way is to listen and lay down and submit to what I'm being told. But, there's lots of different people, to be able to counteract that argument. So I'm excited to be a part of that fight, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. I agree because there's so many people still that don't know about this. And, every time I tell someone like a friend, another friend, a new friend, they look at me, you're what? You're doing what? You're doing carnivore? What is that? I still get that from time to time. and they still look at you like you're dirty, or I have a time limit on my forehead that I'm gonna die soon. Yeah.
You do. It's just going to be a lot longer than
Yeah.
what they think.
Right, right. So Tim, if people want to reach out or connect with you, where's the best place to reach you?
Oh yeah, you can go on my my YouTube channel. I believe it's AZ Tim Johnson. Maybe that's not it. I believe it is, but you can go to my YouTube channel. Again, I've been a little lackadaisical in posting my update video here, but if you're interested, like if you connect with the heart side of my story, I'm not a medical doctor, but working hand in hand with Ovadia Heart Health, they have been great. Again, I'm a patient, and now I'm part of their team trying to spread the good news. And so if you're, hey, I've got a heart issue, or I've had open heart surgery, and you're looking for ways to get off a statin, or to reduce the medications that you're on, you're looking for alternative ways to actually fix the root problem, you can go to ifixhearts.com. And there's some sort of link there that you can go ahead and, take a metabolic quiz, see where you sit metabolically, and then somebody from the team will end up reaching out. But I have nothing but praise to say about the practice there. It's absolutely amazing. I've enjoyed my time. And again, if you don't have a heart issue or some sort of cardiac history, I see all sorts of patients in the practice that don't have that, and they still fix a lot of problems, right? Fixing the metabolic health side, fixing that root issue side of their health. So those are really the two ways. You can follow my personal journey on my personal YouTube, or go to ifixhearts.com.
That's excellent, Tim. I'll make sure to post them in the description so people can reach you. Tim, thank you so much again for joining me. Really enjoyed hearing your story, learning about your journey. I appreciate you taking the time to share. Thank you.
Thanks, Joseph.